就让光芒折射泪湿的瞳孔，映出心中最想拥有的彩虹，带我奔向那片有你的天空，因为你是我的梦。
There's so much media talking about it's not like China. Media, propaganda. If you travel to China one time, you'll feel like, damn, this is a dull place. I don't know that game you're trying to play. I don't know.
Jackson Vantiar doesn't know about the political stuff, but I do. I was born in a city called Hangzhou, not far from Shanghai, and when I was 2, I moved to a city called Harbin, another second-tier city in China but lower ranked. When people asked me if I wanted to go to Canada, I said yes and no. Yes, because on paper Canada developed earlier and was richer, especially in 2005 when I came, so I thought it must have been a better place with a better life. But also no, because I miss everyone in China. He's being honest, they said, and I was. Right after getting off the plane, the first thing that struck me at 10 years old was shock. Then disappointment came after. I couldn't believe I came from this to this. This can't be Vancouver, right? Now I know there's downtown, but the vast majority of the city looks like this, whereas Chinese cities don't look so desolate and run down unless you're on the outskirts. Chinese people living here call North America the big village. Now I know why. It's really not an insult, but just an objective statement of how we feel. Give it time, I told myself. You might change your mind. After 18 years of living here, I've only grown to dislike it more. You don't see tent cities or the homeless littering the streets in China because there's no property tax at all, and an employer-matched housing fund used for renovations, rent, home purchases is a universal basic benefit. Whatever you contribute each month is matched by the employer, so the amount is doubled. Addiction and drug issues are also almost non-existent because those that are addicted to hard drugs are sent to rehab to get better instead of being left to fend for themselves. It's much harder to lose your job in China as well, with the severance pay law being N+1. For every year you worked at the company, it adds 1 month of severance pay to the total amount. China's unionized workforce is also higher. Everything ties together to ensure that in China, it's so much harder to get into a position of falling into homelessness or having addiction issues in the first place. It doesn't matter who you vote for. People need a system where issues are fixed and addressed at the root level. When was the last time you seen a businessman or politician arrested for corruption in Canada? I know I haven't. Not because there isn't corruption, but because corruption is legal. Politicians take high-up management positions in companies, receiving a salary, go back to being a politician, passing legislations favorable to that company, then revert back and forth. This is seen as corruption and is illegal in China.
For all government officials, it's pretty good for the industry, to be honest. Yeah. It's bad for everyone else in America. Because if the regulators for people who drugs know that once they stop being regulated, they want to work for the company, they're not going to be as hard for the company.
The government and corporations here have the same interests, since politicians earn extra income from businessmen. Power is concentrated and held by the wealthy. The system here is designed by the rich, for the rich, to benefit the rich. And this shows in the education system. It's harder for the poor to move up the social ladder when private schools with higher education quality are so costly, or when there's college entry by donation of $1 million or $2 million, versus solid public education and the Gaokao system in China, where college entry only depends on your test score. That is much fairer for the non-millionaire. Horrible, right? Wrong. Doubtful cases without overwhelming evidence are never moved to trial in China. The prosecution cannot move forward unless they have solid evidence, but in Canada, it's much more lawyer and argument dependent. You're trying to persuade a jury versus an evidence-based legal system. Again, this means the average person without money to hire a top legal team is at a disadvantage. I notice censorship here is everywhere. All large media groups and social media are owned and controlled by the wealthy. Legal corruption is never mentioned in the media here, and there are frequent censors on anything depicting China objectively, a place with a system that does not allow legal corruption. As someone who actively searches for these things, I notice them, but for the vast majority, they would never know. You heard of Muslim concentration camps, haven't you? But when journalists visited one, they found the opposite. People were receiving employment training. Chinese media doesn't make up lies about other countries the same way. In fact, other countries' negatives are not even mentioned often, which is why I had to find out myself that Canada has all these problems, big ones.
The demographics came out from the 2020 survey. All of the foreigners that are living in China, More than half of these foreigners have lived in China for more than 5 years.
These are people from Europe, North America, Australia, and lots of them only have intentions to stay in China for 1 or 2 years to teach English. On top of China, was never given out permanent residency or citizenship. I never had a fear of police or thought that I had to be careful in my interactions with them in China. Most police there don't carry guns and are much more gentle. We have every freedom you have, plus freedoms you don't, like drinking in public and being able to go out at 2 a.m. not have to worry about safety nearly as much. I've had girls ask me, can we meet in the morning or afternoon instead of at night because they're scared to take transit at night, or can you walk into my car? China has very little violent crime, if at all. All of this is strange to me, and if you like a long-term trend, China is getting safer, Canada is not. Went to a transit, went to friends' houses. It's normal for the bus to come every 30 minutes to every hour. Public transportation in China has much more frequent buses, no matter where you are in the city. High-speed rail speeds of up to 350 kilometers connect the entire country. The compass car system in Vancouver got in 2015. My city in China had in 1994, a gap of 21 years. Autonomous self-driving vending machines, 5G autonomous self-driving buses, autonomous street sweepers, digital road signs showing real-time traffic conditions with green, red, yellow displays, mobile payments so common in restaurants, shops, buses, metros, even fruit stands. People don't carry wallets for months on end. Using your face to pay for things, wireless phone charging on the metro, all common sights in China and have been for years. Waiting for half a day at the emergency room, 6 months for a specialist appointment, all things I've gone through and will cause riots in China. Things you can get done in China in 1 day takes weeks or months. When my friend was diagnosed with cancer, she was one of the first in Canada to try hormone therapy. She told her doctor in Beijing about the drug. The doctor said, that's the first generation stuff we stopped using long ago due to ineffectiveness and harsh side effects. We're on the 3rd to 4th generation now. Why are you using it? While the standard of care is comparable in Canada, some of these things are just shocking. Doctors in China see way more patients on a daily basis, and they're much better at giving quick, accurate diagnosis, cutting down wait times even further. With the universal health insurance, the cost is low too. If I ever get seriously ill like my friend did, I would want it to be treated in China. The things that come with life in China are pedestrian streets, huge pedestrian and public spaces to most parks being amazing in every city, and not just a patch of grass. There are some big and nice parks in Vancouver, but too many of them look like this. There's just no comparison. These parks are littered throughout the city, downtown, between office towers, residential areas, so no matter where you go, there's a space for you. Then there's the bustling nightlife. There's always something to see, something to do. There's a saying in China that living abroad makes you patriotic. I'm living proof of that. At BCIT, I remember a setmate saying, we can't censor the media, otherwise we'd be like China. Media in China actually attacks the sensitive stuff and interest groups that Canada does not. Other setmates have said, well, China must do the same, when I tell them the media here lies about China on purpose, or that, I don't know what China is doing specifically, but China must be doing the same to stop others from rising, when I tell them about Huawei. This comes from brainwashing and conditioning. I met people who've never been to China who think they know China better than the Chinese, or people I just met telling me they don't like the Chinese government, based on lies that they've been told, thinking that it's somehow socially acceptable. Imagine if I had just met someone and just blurted out that I don't like the Canadian government out of the blue, when the conversation and gathering had nothing to do with politics. Wouldn't that be weird? If I had never been to Canada but somehow thought I knew better than a Canadian who was trying to tell me about his country, wouldn't that be ridiculous? It's honestly so sad and scary to see such a large brainwashed population, people who are so in the dark in 2023. And the scariest part is, they don't realize it. This is exactly what the rich here want, for people to think that any system that's different from ours, any system that isn't designed to benefit the rich is horrible. They need to make that place an enemy. When people ask, why are there so many Chinese here who are still loyal to the CCP? We're not loyal to the CCP. We're loyal to a fair and better system that's for the people, that addresses pressing issues instead of having them linger and letting the country rot. In reality, the CCP is way better than the government here. I gave this presentation in Business Com 1, because some things need to be said. My stepmom and grandma both thought life in China is better after living here. It cracked me up when my grandma blurted out, there's nothing good about this place before leaving after a 3-year stay. In fact, most Chinese in Canada have taught to think the same, but they won't tell you that because they think you won't understand or they don't want to offend, or we speak our honest true thoughts when conversing in Chinese. The more I live here, the more I feel Canada is a society done wrong with a system built for the rich. China is a society done right with the wealthy kept in check. You know what I think? I think Canada sucks compared to China. Let that sink in. It may be uncomfortable or unusual to hear, but for once, I just want to give the unfiltered, honest truth. It's something I've thought of ever since getting off the plane but avoided saying to not hurt anyone's feelings. I used to smile and just say nothing because I thought I was wasting my time or you wouldn't understand. The me now realizes I need to speak my mind and to create the change I want to see. Living here shattered my previous worldview. I no longer think that the West must be better or life in Canada must be better just because. It actually brought me closer to my country and culture instead of diminishing the identity and connection. I was not a political person before like I am now. I'm determined to go back, to pursue my dreams in a country that's simply better for living in. I am grateful to have a home country to go back to, a place without homelessness issues, a place without drug problems because addicts are helped, a place where girls and guys can feel safe in, no matter the time, a place where corruption is illegal, where people are actually getting sentenced for it, a place with much more advanced utilization of technology, a place where there's no wait when it comes to healthcare, a place with way better public transportation infrastructure, way better public spaces and convenience, and of course, way bigger music stages. I could go on and on and on and on, but you get the picture. My dream is to go back to China, to pursue a singing career on stages like these that you don't get in Canada.就让光芒折射泪湿的瞳孔，映出心中最想拥有的彩虹，带我奔向那片有你的天空，因为你是我的梦，我的梦，我的梦，你是我的梦。